Hey guys, so I am drawing an owl using Faber-Castell Pit pencils, pastel pencils actually. Um, I found this owl online actually in a video and I screenshot it. And you can find this owl specifically on TikTok under Cody, the Eagle Owl. So at CODEYTHEEAGLEOWL. That's at Cody, the Eagle Owl, on TikTok at least. Took a screenshot and yeah, so I'm slowly building them up. So the idea of this is kind of getting the base colors down and then slowly coming in and adding more detail to it as I go, kind of working my way slowly down the body. I'm not doing the background, I'm just doing the owl and then the wood perch that he's on, he or she's on. Yeah. So this is what I'm working on. So the main colors that I'm using right now is, because they go by numbers, I guess I can get my book and tell you exactly which colors I'm using, since not everybody uses the same thing. I'm using dark sepia here. Got white, black, obviously. I'm also I'm using mostly grays. So I'm using, actually, you know what would be better? I'm using dark sepia, Payne's gray, cold gray 4, warm gray 4, cold gray and warm gray 1, black and white, as well as, let's see here, some ivory and cream. And again, I'm using the Faber-Castell Pit pastel pencils. Yeah. Yes, sir. In here, in the eyes, I used, underneath the black of the pupils, I was using cobalt blue, and then I went over it with black. And then in the color of the eyes, I used light chrome yellow as well as orange glaze. And then, yeah, and then I used sepia around it and then around the eyes, and then I blackened it in with the black. So what I'm working on now, sort of building up the gray texture that's in his cheeks. I had to get it to heat, if Cody is the name of the owl. So I'm using some of my lighter ones. So it's not like some of the pencil kits where you get like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I believe there's only 70 in this one. This is like the biggest one that I could find. 60 Pit pastel pencils. So we've got some options. The nice thing about this is that it's easy to blend. The problem with this is it is dusty as all get out. So yeah, we got to contend with that along the way. So you'll hear me blowing on it to get rid of the excess stuff, and then you'll see, even when I use something like this, which just helps keep your hand on this instead of on the paper as you go, and it doesn't smudge what you've already drawn. You can use anything, glycine paper. This just happened to come with a book that I have, like an art book. So I just use it over and over and over and over and over again, and it doesn't seem to really make a difference. But even by doing that, I still get color all over the place, like dust. So it's almost impossible, and then I just use a white kneaded eraser afterwards. So what I'm doing, I went in with an ivory gray all over, and I'm just going in now with a warmer gray, and just kind of, because the way we're going to make it look more realistic is by giving it shadowing, right? So on this side, there's a bit of a blonde color to it. And then on this side, it stays gray, but there's shading in here that needs to come in. So what I suggest personally, like what I do, is just making sure that I watch, in this case, the way the feathers go. I'm not good at feathers, I ain't gonna lie. And I consider myself someone who's always forever learning art. I've been doing it since I was probably since I was a lot younger, but I got into art when I was 14. And I took every class possible: pottery, figure art, comic book art, photography, sketching, you name it, I've taken it. And then in college, I took photography while I was in journalism. Long ago, unfortunately. So, but I got more into it. Like, I've always kept up with, like, sketching here and there, like, a few times a year. But this is the first time I've really sat down in the last year or so. And I mean drawing numerous things every day. Every day. It's becoming like a weird obsession. And coming across the pastels and the pencils that are available. I love mixed media, so you name it, I like to do it. I like to paint. I love sketching. I love doing stuff like this. I get in and out of the pastels because they're annoying the way they dust, but they really do blend nicely. And while I'm waiting to save up more expensive pencils, I'm kind of working with what I got, which is this at the moment for good color. If you're someone that's interested in learning a little bit more about it through watching the videos, I'd love a subscribe. A like to the video is always nice too, if you're enjoying it, of course. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm just going lightly over top of what I already did. And as you can hear me blowing away the dust there. I'm going to bring in some white, because there's quite a bit of white in this actually. That it's kind of hard to do when you're on a white sheet of paper. And they say that there's no white in art, which is, I don't care. Like, sometimes there's actually white. So you're just going to have to deal with it. And if that's not your prerogative in art, that's cool too. Don't do white. But I do. I do. I tend to do like a steel gray and then kind of bring in hints of white. So that way, when you got something like this in the background, like a light color in the background, it gives it more oomph. Makes it stick out more so you don't have like a bunch of blank spots. And just because it is a whiter area doesn't mean you leave it blank. There's white and different colors of white, or different shades of white, I should say, like creams and all that you can bring into it, that are going to make it so much more of a standout thing. So, and you should always like have fun with it. Like, look at your pencils and how they blend together, because some blend really good together that you wouldn't have thought, and it might just work exactly for what it is you're looking for. So yeah. So I've learned a lot of what I do. Well, mainly it's just practice. But I watch Bonnie Snowden. She is like fantastic and funny and sweet and woman who's like crazy, insane, talented, and just a good teacher. So I suggest you guys follow her as well. And she does lives every now and again where she does free little tutorials. And on her website too. So, yeah. So what I'm doing is, like I said, I brought in some shading around the side. I do need to bring in a little bit of darker, kind of down farther, so it's not so much of an exact line. I like to kind of go in exact at first, and then kind of go in and... Because when you do these little marks that come up and then out and then back up and out like this, it may seem weird, but it creates shape and dimension in your drawing. So sometimes I find too, like you'll get the darker parts in, like block in the darker colors, and then you go in to do the lighter colors and you realize your darks aren't anywhere near as dark as what it is in the photo. So you're gonna see me go back over some of these lines. And even though it goes around the eye on the one side, on this side it doesn't really do that. It's sort of like a unique little thingamabob like that. Yeah, I do it just for me. I do custom art prints when asked. But I mainly do them just because I love them. Like for October, my friend Gloria and I, if you follow me on Facebook, Ashpauls, same name, ASHPAULS, Ashpauls Art. I do like drawing challenges all the time, and my good friend Gloria will join me sometimes for them. And the one we're doing next is going to be 31 Days of October, like spectacular things. And I haven't decided. Normally every year I do face painting as well and show people like it's not really that hard to do really funky, cool face painting ideas. But I don't know. I've done it 3 years in a row. I might do like a couple days of it or something, you know, like for fun, but I don't think I'm going to be doing the 31 days of it. It's really harsh on the skin, and I don't know how people who are makeup artists get into that all the time. It's a lot of work to be shown for like 5 seconds on a video, and then it's done, you know, in a couple photos, and then that's it. And I just don't have the patience for that. Plus, it's rough on the skin, like I said, so very drying. Excuse me. So in here, it seems to go up just, I seem to have the cream color up just a little bit too high. It doesn't have to be exact. I mean, it's not like it's a portrait or anything. If you're doing a portrait, then yeah, you want to be a little bit more pickier, but it's not like it's a huge deal. I'm just being weird about it. So in here, there's more of like a tan color, but there's like a white that goes around. So I'm kind of working on that. And then there's a white that kind of splashes in right here. And this is where I kind of strayed. I moved the sepia into the white a little bit just to kind of combine it better. You can see the dust, especially when you start blending the colors, because it'll pick up some of the pigment from the color before, depending on the paper you're using. So I'm using, I don't even know what I'm using, I can tell you here. I love this paper. Sometimes I just use mixed media paper because, you know, I'm on a budget. But this is Strathmore Bristol. Bristol Vellum. And it is 11 by 14, and it's 100 pounds or 270 grams. They say 100's good, 200's better, 300's great. And I found that out after I had gotten 100, but I have to say I absolutely love this paper, and it's decently priced, unlike some of the paper. Like, I really don't understand how people are able to afford some of the pads of paper that are like $50 for like 20 sheets. To me, that's just not feasible. So when you're on a budget, you got to make it work. And that's where I do mixed media for like some of my practice stuff that I'm doing. And then when I want to do something that will go up on my website, and all my links are in the description box, for following me on Facebook, all that stuff, and the website. But when I do them, I like them to be on something nicer that I can ship out to clients. So that's what I like to do. So I'm going to move you guys further down this way now, since we're working now on the body. So I'm going in with, what color is this? This is not cream, it's ivory. So the ivory has quite a yellow tinge to it. And sometimes when you bring the cream in, it's like, it's too yellowy. What did I do with my, there we go. It gets too yellowy, so I like to use the cream. And you can always dull it down with white, of course, but I just like the cream because I feel like, especially when you're going up against white paper, it's really going to show. So even though I have some spots that are white, this is just a Faber-Castell eraser pencil, in case you're wondering. They're really cheap on Amazon. They're good. I like that you can do this. A lot of what you're doing with pastels anyways you don't even need to really worry about erasing your lines, but it's still nice to get in there and kind of get rid of them, because the nice thing is on this paper anyways, the line will stay there faintly. So a lot of times I'll draw out the animal, get them all ready, and then before I even start, I just erase everything because you can still see it faintly. I don't know. Yeah, you can still see it on the camera a little bit. And that's what I like, because then I still have the guidelines I made when originally drawing it, but I don't have to have it in my way either. I can just go right over it. So this is going to be another patch of white, which I might just put the ivory in right now because I'm terrible for going over it. It's not ivory, sorry. It's this one, 230. It is cool gray 1. I like cool gray 1 instead of white, just because for me and what the ones I have, because I don't have a lot. Like I said, I'm working with a 60 pack of them. It works. It's the closest to white. Kind of gives that cool white sheen, and you can always put some white in there too. So right now, what I first start doing when I start the area is I just blocking up the color, going in the direction of the fur, hair, or in this case, feathers. So yeah, that's what we're working on. So I'm just going to erase some more of my guidelines that I created. You guys are ever wondering like what to do for inspiration, you know, that kind of thing? There are some wonderful groups on Facebook that you can join that are all free reference photos. And usually they just ask, like, it's a group full of photographers and artists of varying kinds. And everyone's welcome at any level, at any stage in their development, which is great. And they just ask that you only post, you know, your art in that group specifically that is of a photographers in that group, and that you give them a shout out, like you tag them in it. So yeah, if you like search free reference photos on Facebook, you can find tons of good stuff. So I'm going to leave the feet for now, or the claws, talons, I don't know what you call it. All right, so we're going back in with this guy, and we're going to start with this wing, which is actually really rather dark. And going in with the medium pressure of like, and that means like how hard I'm pushing on it, because pastels, unlike pencil crowns, don't, like, they can be really grainy if you don't press a little bit harder than you would, say, on the pencils. So I still do it lightly. It's light. And I do blow it away like that as I go, because then I can see what I'm working with, because sometimes the dust will cover up areas that I need to cover still. So it's good to continuously keep it clean of an area so you know what it is you're actually dealing with. And I'm just going to put in the color with a medium pressure, which means I'm not pressing it super lightly, but I'm not pressing it super hard either, because there's going to be colors that go over it as well, like throughout, but we want it to kind of show through. So we want it covered, but there's a few little spots that aren't, like a little bit of graininess. It's not a big deal, because that's just not how it's going to work in this case. We're not going to need it. So there's like this little bump of a feather right here. And then I'm going to come in with my sepia. And I'm just going to, because some of these are going to have to come in black, but at least with sepia, you can kind of come in lighter, kind of make your game plan a little bit. And then if you do an oopsie that you really don't like, then you can stand a better chance at kind of hiding it. But in this case, I guess there's not really much point, but sometimes I feel like building up the color of black gives it more volume when you do that, when you put extra colors in. So I tend to do that. Because see, one layer you can still see the cream, or the ivory I should say, the ivory color through the graininess. So now you can use things like, look, you're sitting on them, little sponges and things you can buy, or your finger even, and dig in the color and make it deeper. But and I do that if I'm doing more of like, say, an animal that's all black or all one, like close to all one color. But in this case, that's not gonna be what I'm doing, so I'm just sort of marking in. Again, it's not gonna be perfect, but we would kind of like to keep the idea of going in the direction that's supposed to go in. In this picture, when you blow it up, because it is just a snapshot of a video, is kind of blurry, so I can't get the exact details, the exact markings that is on Cody, but this way I can kind of work with it. But yeah, I'm more known on TikTok for doing portraits of artists, like musical artists on there. So you'll see me go in a musical artist's room and be like, hey, mind if I do your portrait? And then I snapshot a bunch of photos while I'm in there listening to them. And then I do their picture. And I post it, like I do kind of like a sped up version of me doing the portrait. And I do that with graphite pencils. I don't do that with this. You know, it still looks kind of rusty, but we're just blocking it in. And then we'll slowly start mixing in. I'm going to put some warm gray in as well. Or is it Payne's gray? I don't know. We'll check. We'll check and see. There is some white going towards the bottom that I would like to incorporate a little bit. And I mean, none of this is have-tos. I always consider it like, when you see videos like this, to just go on and see if there's something, a technique that you may want to try. And if it works for you, then great. If it doesn't mean it's wrong, it just means it's not for you. And there's so many different artists that are like amazing. We can all learn from each other, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so we're gonna keep that in, but we're gonna bring in some white. Yes, the dreaded white. Right about here. Help if I actually, what do you call it? Sharpen my pencils. Manually sharpening these are a pain in the butt because they break a lot. Pastels are really hard on pencil sharpeners. And they break easily too. So I tend to, when I'm in a giving mood and being nice to my pencils, I tend to sharpen them to a degree, and then I get a little, I can't show you because you guys are sitting on it again, but I get a little sand block, and I what do you call it? I sand them down more so that they're sharper and last longer, because they tend to break otherwise. Okay. So just putting in some white. throughout it. Then you can see when I bring in the lighter gray where I'm actually going to put it, like how dark I want to put it, what have you, because this will take up the place of some of those that I wanted to do. So but I tend to go live mostly on Facebook when I'm able. I made a new page there, so unfortunately they're making me wait till I get 100 followers again, and I believe I'm like around 10 off, 13 off. So if you're feeling so kind, I really would appreciate a follow on my Facebook page, because that's where I like to go live the most and interact with everybody. So Ash Paul's ASH PAULS art. Ash Paul's art. Just coming in because I don't like the yellow in all those parts. So the nice thing about pastels is you can kind of go back over it. Some people are like, I only do pastels only. I only do pencils only. And I can definitely see why people would prefer, well, I can see why they prefer any of them over the other, because they all have their perks. But I think to me, it just comes down to my mood and what I'm in the mood to do. So in this case, it's pastels. I do a lot of pencil crown drawing though. A lot of times they say, you'll hear a lot of people say the best pencils are Cairn d'Ache with the C, I believe. And then it's the Faber-Castell Pitt pencils. And then Polychromos Pitt pencils, I should say, by Faber-Castell, because they have other types. And then for paper, they use Pastel Matte. They use other stuff too, like drafting film and stuff like that. But Pastel Matte seems to be a big overall fan of people's. I'm looking for Mad Black. There it is. We're just going to come in and lightly, because we don't want it to be so drastically different than the top. So we're going to try to gradually bring it in here. Keyword is try, because you don't know if you don't try. And the more layers, the less likely you are to have the green, which is just little spots of the pencil coming through. That's all they mean when they say that. Now, depending on where you are, pencil sharpeners, we'll say, are different. I know the Shark one is a big one in the UK. Here, a lot of people use AFMAT. I think it is AFMAT. Could be totally wrong. I think that's the one they use for electric pencils, but I don't know if that one's good with pastels. And even if it is, I'm a little afraid to test it because I don't want to ruin it on that. So I don't have it, but that's my intention. It's one of my saving up things. They're about, if you're in Canada, about $30. Obviously cheaper if you're in the US. You may hear squawking from my cat. He is a talker and a whiner, and he has like a never-ending stomach that he thinks should be consistently filled. And when I don't give it to him, we are all going to hear it. And not only that, but he will also try to join on the paper then. He's sleeping right now about 10 feet from me, and that probably will not last all night while I'm doing this, so. Where's the warning? I've been told in the past by people, I used to do tarot and runes. I used to teach it and read it. And I did quite good at it, actually. But, um, but I used to be told by people that they would suggest me not letting my cats in my videos because it's not professional. And honestly, I think majority of my viewers were there because of my cat, not because of me. And I'm totally okay with that fact. He is cute and charming. He's also spoiled and a brat and crazy. But, you know, that's why they come cute, because they're absolutely nuts. And if anyone's ever owned a tuxedo cat, you would totally understand what I mean, that they are apeshit. So we got this wing in pretty good. I would like to leave a little bit of white in there, which I will probably forget to do. And then we've got to leave a line of dark too. So I think what I'm going to do is actually put in that line now, which is going to look weird for the moment, but it will differentiate where the wing comes up and off. And then there's that white, so we're just going to leave that guy there. And he goes here. And then I'm just going to do this, trail off. And then we're going to grab the sepia, dark sepia, and then we're just going to kind of go up and under. Not that that's really necessary, but it makes me feel good. And I'll probably totally change that by the time I'm done. But yeah, until then. So you will see me doing oil painting, acrylic, water, pastels, as well as pencil crown. Mostly pencil crown and pastels. Just depends, like I said, just depends on my mood. It really does. It changes all the time, or what I'm trying to do too, and sketching as well. I tend to do people portraits in graphite. That seems to be my skill set. I tend to paint landscapes best, in my opinion. And then I tend to do animals better in pastel or pencil. And I can't paint them and draw them, but I like this better. I feel like I can take my time and kind of go into my own little happy place. And if you're a gardener or a fellow artist of any kind, even musician, you know that while you're doing the things that you love, doesn't matter what that is, whatever your passion is, you sort of fall into a lull and you're just hanging out in the present doing your thing. A lot of times I'll put on a documentary in the background or listen to an ebook, something like that, or an audible book, I should say, on here. Obviously we can't do that because of regulations. But yeah. So currently I'm actually reading though, the books of Dune, which by Frank Herbert, which I was recommended by a friend, but I never had actually read them before. A lot of times I'm a big reader and always have been. Love classic novels. Yeah, a lot, but I'm getting more into like classic novels of like Russian literature, like Dostoevsky. Who else? I love French, like Guy de Maupassant. I love mythological lore and stuff like that, like Lafcadio Hearns, Robert E. Howard, H.P. Lovecraft, that kind of stuff. Clark Ashton Smith. He's actually a distant cousin. Not that I would consider him family in the sense, it's not like I knew him or anything. But still cool. for female writers. You know, it's weird. My sister was always into Anne Rice. I was more into Charlene Harris, who did Sookie Stackhouse mystery novels, which were True Blood, Margaret Atwood, books like that. I don't know, weird woman books. You could say feminist books, I guess, to an extent. Though I'm not a feminist, I just, you know, I'm a chick, so it's nice to have chicks in the lead sometimes. But my sister was always into Anne Rice, and in the past year, maybe two, I've read all of Vampire Diaries, Jesus, the Vampire Chronicles, and amazing books. I tried to read them in high school. I read Interview with the Vampire. I tried to read Lestat, Prince Lestat. I couldn't get into it at all. It was just too long, too wordy for my liking, which is weird because I would read books that were like, you know, 1,500 pages or more long, but for some reason, I just couldn't do that. I couldn't do her novels. And now I'm like obsessed. So, I don't know. It's weird how your style changes over time. Like A Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Orange and Catcher in the Rye were my favorite books in high school. And I'm aware how messed up that is because I know that Clockwork Orange is weird. And a lot of people had a really hard time understanding what was even being said because it's, if you've not read it, it's almost like it creates its own language in a sense. And I got it for some reason. I understood it and I enjoyed the book, as dark as it is. I found it fascinating, and just make sure you guys can actually see what it is I'm working on here. And I don't know, I found it fascinating. I loved it. I loved the idea of like the author creating their own languages and all that stuff. And then I tried to read it in the last like couple years, and oh my god, I was like, what the hell? What was I thinking? It's not like it's bad. I still have an appreciation for it, and it's major nostalgia for me, which, you know, who doesn't love nostalgia? But still, it was a little not as good as I remember. So I guess I should check out Catcher in the Rye again, see if I'd actually like that, but I'm almost afraid I wouldn't. I have such a soft spot for that book that I'm like, oh, I think I'd be heartbroken if I didn't love it anymore. But I'm not one to read a lot of books like Dune, like mystical, kind of like fantasy, I guess. I don't even know. Sci-fi in some instances. I'm just not into it, but I've read The Hobbit years ago, enjoyed it. Couldn't read Lord of the Rings. I read the first one. The other two, it was like the most god-awful thing trying to read it. Read it in the past year again, and I loved it. I do not love, and I don't know why I don't remember this from the movies, but I don't love the fact that they face off with a giant spider, which is absolutely disgusting, but it's not like I have to actually see it as I'm reading it. So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it this time around, and so I thought, you know what, I might get into Dune. And I actually read Frank Herbert's biography that his son wrote first, Dreamer of Dune, I believe is what he called it. And I gotta say, he made me, well, my friend reading it too, because they were right into it, and read like all 6 of Frank's, and then started into, is it Sean? What's his son's name? I can't remember. Sean Herbert? Oh, I can't remember. It's terrible. But he was good when he wrote the biography, so I was hoping. And my friend said he found, I know there's kind of controversy with fans as to whether, you know, they like the son's versions who took over after the dad passed, but I liked the biography a lot. I thought it was open and honest, good and bad, you know, and I like that because it makes me feel like I'm actually getting to know the person, and that made me want to read the Dune series. And even his son, who continued on with the novels, At first, for the longest time, had never read them. Now, obviously, before his dad had passed, he had, and he was a huge fan and loved them and all that stuff. So it was perfect that he take over, but I don't even know where he's going with that, but yeah. I'm just going on a rant. I'm just talking to myself. But I'm enjoying him. Only in the first novel. Who knows how many I'll read. I tend to like to read, if I'm going to read something like that has a bunch, I don't like unfinished stories, so I tend to finish them. And since they're all out, obviously, at least of Frank's books, yeah, I think I'd read it. I don't like how boxy that looks, but that's actually how it looks in the picture. I don't know. I think it looks weird, but... So what I'm going to do is come in with this cream now, because there's this, like, weird feather that comes across right here. And it goes like this, right up to that white. And then there's, like, a weird... There's, like, this weird... just little line that goes through. And it almost comes up like that. Which I think looks totally weird on paper. But on the animal, it makes sense. So what I'm going to do is come in with the white. I don't know how I haven't gotten not charcoal, but pastel all over my face doing this, but it's not like you guys would see it if I did. Alright. So, I'm just going to lighten up this yellow because it's too glary. See what I mean? This is a cream and it's like, ew. So I think what I might do, not right there. Oh, that's nice. Love when that happens. Ugh. Please make me have to do this like a million times more because I love sharpening my pencils. Apparently I'm getting an email or something. Okay. Okay. This is annoying. Alright. Okay. So I'm going to bring in, since there is some gray, I'm going to try to lighten this some more using the white. Because I want it to stand out from the whatever whatever that color was. I can tell you, the ivory. I like to stand out a little bit more, so I'm going to come in with, actually, where's my other gray like that? What am I doing here? Okay. So this is a cold gray 4. And I'm just going to come in and try to build up the shape of it. And then I'm going to put in some warm gray 4, I believe it is. And put in some lines and texture. So I can't really see it too much as of yet, but it kind of goes. So I'm just using light pressure. They say if you want light pressure, to bring your hands further up the pencil. But I tend to have pretty good control over whether or not, says the girl that just broke her pencil from pressing it too hard, but I tend to do faint lines like this a little bit better when I can have a little bit of control over it. I think that looks weird. Just my opinion. do need to blend that in a little bit. I wonder if I can do that with the sepia. I don't like how harsh it looks. It's like, and it's grainy, and it's, I just don't like it. I don't like it like that. Okay. So we're gonna come in and add more color around it too, which should help, but I'm not a fan at the moment. And then I'm going to take Cold Gray 1 in here. I'm going to try to blend it down into this warm gray or Payne's gray. I just don't like the way it looks. I may almost do better doing it with white. See, my problem with platforms like this, not that there's anything wrong with them, I enjoy them, but I always have music in my head. And that's an issue for me because what do you do when you have music in your head? You want to sing it. Get it out of your head, and I can't do that. Yeah. So even though I'm being a chatty Cathy at the moment, I'm generally pretty quiet when I'm doing my artwork. But apparently I'm in the mood to chit-chat, so I'm chit-chatting to myself and whoever watches the replay. I don't like that. I'm gonna see. There does seem to be black that comes down. Oh, the allergies are bugging me. Okay, so I'm gonna bring. The nice thing about pastels is that you can kind of, when you're not happy with something, you can kind of work around what it is you don't like where the gray was too dark, and came in and we're just sort of becoming a little bit more picky with our placement of color, but instead of just blocking it in and what have you. So right now I'm using black because there's so many layers that not much gray is gonna show over top of this right now. And I'm doing it finely, like with light pressure, so you know, if you have good control with your hands over it, you can kind of work with it. You don't technically need the gray, just lighten the black and do more layers if you need to. It's like a weird thing going on here. Okay. Okay. Let's see. So this, I don't know if you guys can see it, but in here, you can see it. It's where we got the cool gray one. So I'm just blocking out some of the block spots. I like to attempt to do similar markings, though, I mean, it's not huge deal in this instance that the markings are exactly correct because they're all over the place. And all it would take is him to move, and then all the markings would move along with it. But I still like it. To look like it's supposed to. Plus, when you follow markings a little bit, it helps you with shaping the animal. So, in this case, like, you know, the rounding of the feathers and what have you, that will create rounding in the body, which is key. So, it's almost got like a little fat deposit right here. I'm gonna have to get some pink in there. Don't want to put cinnamon. Cinnamon would be too dark. But we're gonna need some sort of color in there, like a granite rose or something. I gotta be careful because we're coming up on this other wing here, and I don't want to. I'm gonna knock it off. So I do see some black in that wing. It's going to come off here. Like this. So it'll just help me. Just to give it a rough. This. The only reason I'm doing this is so I don't go into this as I'm working on the body spots. So I figured better stop and just put a little bit to markings on there. So that one that kind of goes like this. So the next portraits I'm going to be working on in terms of people is the outdoor guys from Facebook. Well, they're from all social media. They're on YouTube as well. And they are Newfies from Dover, Newfoundland. Two friends that have just do like fun nights to get you laughing. And my dad's from Mozambique, Newfoundland. So, I really enjoy being around them because it reminds me of my family. So, I'm going to be drawing them, and then I'm going to be doing another one of a musician, Greg. And Greg, I might work on those as well on here, just to give you some techniques with graphite that I learned. But Greg's a musician, new father. He plays all different sorts of instruments like the harmonica, the guitar. Great voice. Really kind of like if you're a 90s kid, like you were in high school in the 90s, I guess I should say. It'd be a lot of music. Kind of reminds you of that. When you see him on social media, he plays originals, which is nice. But when I'm working on them, I'll leave links to all their social media as well, so you guys can check them out, because I don't have them offhand. We do have, so we got this guy here, got this here, we got a leg. I do need a pink color. So this one is 132, which is, well, I use it like a granite rose, but in reality it's beige red. And we're gonna do, because he has like a fold right here, and this is dark, I'm aware. Too dark, but that's okay. We're just kind of blocking in what it is and going to be drawing, which is kind of like his belly kind of area. And then we've got a line here. It's going to be his legs. There's another one of those weird ridgy looking feathers. So it's faint, but I still want to do it. Put it in there, and then we're gonna bring his leg down like this to here. And then we've got a spice, and then it comes up here for his other leg, and then there's some pink right here and some shadowing, and he's got some white on his leg. This is just a rough sketching, so I know what I'm working in. He's got gray up in here in amongst his unique feather pattern thing, putting them back to the skin tone, and then again white. So what I'm going to do is grab sepia, dark sepia, and I'm going to mark in the areas between his little legs there, where before we start all the talons and all that stuff, we'll get this done. And then it goes up towards his legs like this. Okay. And then just come in and soften it up a little bit with a warm gray. So we know what we're working with here. So we do have a gray line that comes like this to start one of those unique feather marks. And here, before I get too far into it, I'm going to bring in some cold gray 1. And I'm going to just lighten up that pink. So we still want it there, but we're just softening it. So I'm using kind of a light to medium pressure so that the pink color stays as more of a fleshy color, and it gets kind of brightened up and whitened by the cool gray. And then we're just gonna bring it down, and then we'll do the same on this side. And then I noticed that there's some white up the side of the leg as well, not just on the bottom. So I'll bring that in as well. There's white. So just along this area here. And then he's got some darker grays. And then again here. And then up the side of the leg. And then he's got a shadow. Right over top of that gray. And then he's got a shadow in there. So we're gonna come in with this gray. And this is the Payne's Gray. Warm Gray 4. Okay, I wasn't sure because I know one of them's Payne's Gray. And to me, unless you're working with both, it's hard to remember which one's which. So he's got like a fold in his leg that is that's shadowed. It's kind of interesting. And then under this pink, again, we'll lighten this up. He's got a fold right here I want to get. And then right below his belly, where this little white mark, like white area, it's got a little bit of gray that shows, pops up. And then we're going to lighten that with that cool gray 1 again. under this little pink wrinkle. We'll do the same. And then we're not going to do that with that spot because we want this to stay. We're just going to do it lighter pressure. And then we can do more layers to build it up since we have the right color. Okay, and then just kind of come down here. Okay, so we do have a marking on here, and they're just light. You don't really need to worry about markings like these because they're so faint, but to me it's like there's the little details that stick out for me because they're kind of interesting and different than the rest of the body. So it's like you're kind of doing a disservice, something unique that you can add to the piece that shows detail and you know what makes sense, what's truly happening. So on his little leg here, he's got another kind of wrinkly feather looking lines, but it's not, it's more like folds in the skin. So I'm going to bring them in. They get darker as they get up the leg. They're more shadowed. And then this leg itself, on the upper half here, is all shadowed. Well, it actually has gray on it, not just shadowed, sorry. So I'm going to come in, actually what I'm going to do is come in with Payne's Gray and go over these lines, since they're going to be lightened by the gray going over top of it, the warm gray. So if we left the color like that, then yes, I would have left them lighter, but since we're doing a light warm gray for wash over these colors, just lightly, because we still want a hint of what the colors are. So the ivory and the, I don't know what that was. What was that color? It is beige red. Okay, the gray comes down a little bit here, and a shadow. Okay. So I'm just kind of lightly dusting over it because I don't want to build it up, but it is pretty grainy still, and I want it to be blended a little bit. So I'm just sort of doing light circles, barely touching the pencil to the paper so it doesn't darken it up too much. We might have to add a little bit more color. And then blow it away, see where we're at. Looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to here. We're going to blend this in the same way. Light circles. Okay. And then there's a little mark here. It goes right into the shadow. And then we've got a shadow line right up the leg here. So we're just going to blend that in. And then we're going to take that sepia, just come in and redo those lines because they do get washed out pretty good. So I'm pressing harder depending on how much darker it is on the picture. So where the light hits on this side of the leg, it doesn't show as much. And then farther down the leg, it doesn't show as much. And then I'm just going to take this, sort of blend out some of those messy squigglies I made. My hair loves to get on the page. Okay. So here we're just gonna do again a bit of a better blending job here. Light pressure, circular strokes. And then we've got some dark here. Here. And then here we've got, actually, no. I'm gonna stick with this. This is almost like more wispy. Like that. And then I'm going to take this guy and just blend it in. I need that a little darker. I don't want it to be like a drawing line. I just want it to be like a natural hair wisp. There we go. And then okay. And then we want that to come through too. So now we're working on the claws, which I'm not looking forward to at all. No. I think I might actually take a break. We are at over an hour of working continuously, but so far, this is what we're working with. I will be back to work on the talons and the wood that he's sitting on. All right, thanks guys.